Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Perpetual Motion Podcast. This is an educational and inspirational program focused on helping professionals communicate better, invest wisely, and excel in their careers with an emphasis on self care. Each week, I engage in dynamic and sometimes hilarious conversations with leading experts who span the globe. My guest today is Allyson Ward. She is a mother, author, speaker, and life design expert who integrates technology with personal development to help her clients expand their growth mindset. Her personal story is a shining example of practicing what you teach. If you're as passionate about personal growth and changing the world for the better as I am, lean in, lean back, and join the journey. Welcome, Allyson.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Dr. Mo, for having me. I'm so looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely, as am I. I want to start at the beginning, as I do with most guests, your personal story, your journey. When your daughter was 3, things around you grew very dark personally and professionally, and we all have these valleys in our lives. I'd like for you to share a little bit about that period and the decisions you made to transform your life.
Happy to. So in a very short period of time, everything went from as it does sometimes, everything's great, right?
Right.
Career's going along, married, living in a beautiful hometown town, loving family. And in a very short time, my mother passed away. I got divorced, and my oldest daughter was diagnosed with juvenile diabetes,
Oh,
all
wow.
within, it seemed like a matter of months.
Mm.
So everything's going along swimmingly until it's not. So that began the beginning of a journey for me.
And within that time, I'm guessing you weren't always an expert in this area. During that time, did someone come to you? Did you find an expert? I mean, what prompted you to say, I'm not living like this anymore? This isn't
Yeah.
working for me. This isn't serving me, as they
No, it is
say.
not serving me. You're absolutely right about that. You know what? What it came down to, Dr. Mo, is that one day I remember being in my house
Mm-hmm.
and being in a marriage that just was not great for me. So this is before I got divorced. And trying to juggle the demands of a big career at IBM,
Mm-hmm.
trying to care for my children at the best possible way, all while being in an unhappy marital situation and then losing my biggest supporter ever, my mother.
Right. Oh, my.
And I remember I actually ended up, my back seized up as I was running around on Saturday morning trying to get everything done. And
Mm-hmm.
next thing I knew, I was on the floor, flat on my back, with my 2 small daughters kind of running around the room.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, raising healthy, happy, productive young women was my driver. And I knew whatever I was doing right now was not going to serve me in helping me to get there.
Exactly.
And not having my biggest supporter, I had to figure out another way to take care of myself
Mm-hmm.
so I could take better care of my daughters.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, we all have that wake up point. I'm divorced as well, been through a lot of valleys. I could write a book on valleys. And I remember one time being at a really low point. And when you have kids at home, as those mothers out there know, you really you want to be a good example for them, but at the same time, they need to understand that moms are vulnerable. Moms have bad days, and it's hard.
Yeah.
And trying to balance all that with professional aspirations and all the expectations of women that we're going to talk about in a
Mhm.
little bit, it kind of paralyzes you. This is not good, but
Right.
which way do we go?
Right. And I wish I could say it was that day that caused me to decide to get divorced. I wish I could say it was that day
Hmm.
that I really started on my journey of improving my skills and learning how I could be in a better place and then learning those skills, it wasn't. It took a
Right.
little bit more pain.
Mhm.
And this is generally what happens with people is it's that pain that makes us, take action,
Right.
right? The pain doesn't sustain you in action, but it is usually the catalyst for some action. So for me, the combination of the pain that I was feeling at that moment and continue to feel, in addition to my driving why, which
Mhm.
was to raise daughters who were happy, healthy, and functional and contributing members of society. It was that combination. And so it was really about a year after I got divorced where I thought, I'm kind of back feeling somewhat more stable than I had been
Mhm.
feeling, but not really joyful.
Right.
And life shouldn't be something to get through,
To
right?
endure.
Right?
Right.
Exactly. We don't want it. We want it to be a joyful, happy journey, right? It's
Mhm.
not the destination, it's the journey.
Yes.
And so, often I hear people say, well, if I can just fill in the blank, get the promotion, get the relation, get the thing, then I'll
Mhm.
be joyful, then I'll be happy. And I'm like, you got to switch that,
Mhm.
right? It's being in that joyful state that allows you to succeed.
Right.
And it makes it easier to get where you're going.
It does. And you see the world in a different way, which is what
Yes.
happened with me when I got peace on the inside, because I thought all this external stuff that society has told me I need,
Right.
that's gonna do it for me. And no, not so much.
Not how it
Not so
works.
much. Yeah,
Not
yeah.
how it
Good
works.
points.
Yeah.
Good points.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. Were you
Oh,
about to
no,
say
nothing
something?
bad. You're good.
Okay. So you begin your transformation self-motivated, which is really how it has to be because other
Mhm.
people poking and prodding and come on, get up, girl, let's go shopping. That's not gonna affect
No.
a long-lasting change. Might be good for a happy hour or two, but
Right, exactly.
you'll be back in your bed curled up crying later when all the friends leave. So what I love with you though is that you began this journey and you stayed on it consistently. And at some point later, you began to work as a trainer for Tony Robbins, one of
Yes.
the most famous motivational speakers and self help experts in the world.
Yes.
I have two questions about working with his organization, and I'll ask them both at the same time. Well,
Okay.
not simultaneously, you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying. First, what is he really like? I'm sure you've been asked that before, but I mean, he projects himself one way. I want to know, what's he really like? And secondly, what did you do or do you do as a senior trainer?
Okay. So first of all, let me just go back, and I want to answer your question, but I just want to go back a little bit and say when I got into the environment, I went into
Mhm,
me, right? It was where I really began my journey of healing for
mhm,
myself. And it was all about me. How can I get my life on track? And it was so impactful. I remember the very first CD that I bought and
mhm,
how I started doing this exercise he laid out. I remember saying to one of my girls, I was like, I mean, how can I feel so different? All I doing is this little silly exercise he had us do. And I did it consistently for 3 weeks. And I literally, well, I felt so different. I felt so uplifted in a way that I had not been in a long time.
mhm,
And then I decided to go to an event. I went to an event and I was like, who is this man? Like, it was just so mesmerizing to see the impact he was able to have in the interventions he was doing in the room.
mm, mhm.
And once I made changes in my life, I thought, what if I could help other people do the same? What if I could
Nice.
learn the tools that Tony has so that I can help other people,
Mhm,
right? Who
right,
can I reach that perhaps Tony cannot reach, right?
right.
And so that began my journey now going from the I'm here for me, now I'm here on the journey of how can I learn to help other people.
Mhm,
And as I continued along that journey, I was made a trainer back in 2014, and I'm now a senior trainer. And so here's what I will say. Let me now answer your question. Here's the thing about Tony. First of all, it's not just that he's the top motivational speaker in personal development, but leadership is a
mhm.
passion of his, as it
Yeah,
is of
yeah.
mine. He is also a master in business. And I've had the good fortune to work at those events with him many times, leadership, wealth management, all of those things. And
Mhm,
so I'm so thankful for how those things that I learned impacted by life.
Mhm.
Tony's mission is to end suffering in the world.
And
And
suffering? Is
end
that what you said?
suffering in the world.
Wow.
Because so many people are suffering or in a suffering
Yes, they
state
are.
that they don't have to be in.
Mhm.
It's their mindset or the beliefs that they have that are keeping them there, not the circumstances. Right. And when we
Right.
can separate circumstances, because you said it a few minutes ago, it's like all these things can happen to you, but like our emotional state, we're responsible for it.
Mhm.
And when you're feeling better, it's easier to navigate those things, certainly. But it begins and ends with how we hold ourselves.
Mhm.
And so I would say, Tony is kind of what you see if you've seen him at an event or I guess, you hear in a book, maybe you've listened to him.
Mhm.
He's so committed and passionate to that. And that's how he shows up in person. He has incredibly high standards. He will serve people until he gets the outcome. He will stay with someone. I've seen him work with people much longer than you might think because
Mhm.
it's serving that person and serving the other people in the room. So it's been a really an honor and a privilege to be able to be at events and support people.
Mhm.
I know for myself as a Black woman, whenever I see somebody in the audience or whatever, I see folk, I'm like, let me go over and say hello. Let me
Right.
just know there's somebody else here who's in the room who I'm there to support you. And that's what I do for everybody, of course.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
my job as a senior trainer. So being a trainer means that I'm at an event. And so Tony's, let's say, speaking on stage and sharing a concept. And you might say, if you were, let's say, on my team, like I get what Tony's saying, but I'm not really certain how it relates to me. Can you break
Mhm.
it down for me? Can we talk about my particular set of circumstances? And so whether that means going through the content, whether that means doing an intervention with you, whatever it is you need for you to get your outcome. And so that's in personal development, that's in leadership, that's in business. As a senior trainer, I often work with Tony's top clients who are
Mhm.
at events. Um, so helping them, like I said, whatever that hurdle is they have in front of them in that moment.
Okay.
So it really depends on the event, what my role is, but
Mhm.
many of the events, that's my role. And then in the leadership program, I have the incredible opportunity to be a speaker on Tony's stage, which I love because it's like breaking down the concept. It's breaking down how do you step more gracefully, more confidently into your leadership.
Mhm.
So those are some of the things I get to do.
Wow, that's really cool and so important. I've listened to Tony a lot, read his things, Maxwell, Brene Brown. I'm really into
Sure.
leadership development, but I'm excited to hear that you are there to help people with their individual questions and concerns because I'm big on investing in professional development, but at the same time, it's nice to know that there's a personal touch to it as well. Because I've been in these giant rooms and you hear these things and it's rah, rah, rah. And then it's like, okay, what?
Right, exactly. And that's natural, I think, right? Because
Mhm.
it's like it sounds really good and you heard somebody else's story and you're really getting from it. And it's not exactly like your story. So you're like, I
Right.
got this one little thing, and I'm
Mhm.
not really certain how to apply that here, right?
Right.
And so that's where someone like me would come in to like, come on, girl, I got you. Let's go in a little private room right here for doing an online event and let's just have a quick chat. And usually it's a quick chat. It's not we need to have a hours conversation.
Mhm.
It's just maybe a little redirection, a little tweaking, a little, well, did you notice this? Right. And then you have all the answers yourself.
Sure. Sure. You're just opening the door for them, out of many
Correct.
doors, opening the right door. I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. Most of your work is, as I understand it, is with professional women.
Mhm.
Uh, what do you believe are the most significant barriers women face today when trying to achieve personal fulfillment, where it all begins?
Well, I would say typically if we look at any problem in life, the biggest likelihood of what's holding us back is whatever beliefs we have.
Mhm.
So if we believe we can't have things, if we believe we should be focused on this instead of taking care of ourselves, right? Women
Right.
have a lot of, take care of your family, take care of your man, do the job, take care of your elders, help support your church, whatever all those things are, they typically all fall before taking care of self.
Mhm.
And that's been ingrained in us for so long that we feel guilty if we prioritize ourselves, when in fact we should look at it reversed. When we are taking care of ourselves, we are and taking care of ourselves is really how we get on the path to fulfillment, right?
Yeah.
So when we're taking care of ourselves, we can better serve all of those areas of our lives. We can better take care of our children. We can show up better in our relationships. We can take care of perhaps ailing parents. We know how to prioritize things. I'll just maybe share with you a quick story uh, about, oh gosh, time's running by so quickly. It's probably 2 years ago now
Mhm.
that my father had a stroke, and we've always enjoyed a close relationship. And I remember even before the stroke, Mo, I knew there was something wrong. I
Mm.
knew that he was not showing up in the way that he always had
Mhm.
shown up. And I remember, thinking to myself, I remember saying these words actually, this is the beginning of the end. Now, the end could be 10 years. I wasn't predicting anything,
Right.
but I knew he was showing up differently.
Mhm.
And I made a decision at that time to let go of pretty much everything else in my life. Like I was doing client work, but I wasn't going out building my business, right? I
Mhm.
said, I need to prioritize my father. And we didn't live near each other. We were about 4 hours apart. And pretty much all of my life since I went to college, we've spoken almost every day.
Oh, wow.
But
Nice.
now it was like 2 to 3 hours a day because I knew I couldn't get this time back.
Mhm.
But I offer this to say that, you know, being in a fulfilled, confident, happy space makes it a much easier decision to prioritize because I know it's important to me, right? And I know I
Mhm.
couldn't get this time back. So it was a very easy decision. I mean, I have suffered consequences as a result of it, but I also, for the last 6 months of my dad's life, I was able to see him many times. I talked to him regularly. I talked to him the day he passed away,
Mhm.
because that was a very clear priority for me.
I like that.
And so when you're feeling, like I said, when you're feeling all those things,
Mhm.
it's much easier for you to prioritize the things that at the end of our journey, no one ever looks back and says, "Oh man, I really wish I had worked more." Right?
Right. Right. I heard someone say once that, at your funeral, at the service, the only people who remember you worked all the time are your children, your
Right,
family.
right,
No one else remembers.
right.
And
Yeah,
is that
that's
how we wanna be remembered? No.
yeah,
No.
no. And certainly not by my children. I don't want to be
Not by
remembered
my
that way.
children, but it's your family. They're the
Well,
ones who you miss that time on, and it's always juggling, always a balance, but, you said the word priorities. What's important to me, and for me, you used the term "suffered consequences." Some consequences are worth having.
absolutely.
There's some
Absolutely.
that are result of poor choices, but when I've made a choice to prioritize the people important to me, if I lose some business or some
Yes,
opportunities, so be it, because they'll come back. I truly believe that there'll be others.
I
There'll
agree.
be others.
I
So,
agree. I agree. It's interesting too. My For me, there were consequences in my business kind of falling off with certain
mhm,
clients I had been working with. And if you're looking for it, there's also a gift. And for me, the gift was an opportunity to reassess
mhm,
what brought me the most joy in my work. What did I want to spend my time doing? And so I've done a little pivot
mhm,
and a lot of that work. I mean, I still work with women and doing that type of thing, but I also
mhm,
in kind of my corporate work, I am pivoting a bit, and I'm on the journey to rebuilding, but I feel congruent, right? I feel like very aligned in
Mhm.
what I'm doing, and it's not just work, it's a mission. And so I really feel aligned. And because my business did fall off, it gave me the opportunity to really think about it.
Nice, nice. I'm smiling, so one, because of what you just shared, but also you used one of my favorite words, congruent. That and
Mhm.
onomatopoeia just, for some reason, make me so happy, but I'm a word nerd, so
Yeah. But it's a horrible thing to feel incongruent, right?
it is. It
Right.
very much so.
And then
Indeed,
and
it
then when
is.
you are, you're not the only person who senses that. Others
Mhm.
around you do as
You im
well, right?
you impact others, yeah. If
Yeah.
we didn't understand how our spirits and our emotional internal states impact others
Mhm.
before 2020, we do now, because the absence of people and hugging and touching and discussing was so palpable, and you
Mhm.
just, as much as I'm enjoying this conversation, if we were in person, that interaction would be, so much deeper,
Yes,
because there's, another dimension of us that's exchanging and communicating. So,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So that's the personal side. Um, let's talk about professionally, because we are in the midst of a presidential election as we
Yes.
speak, where we have a viable female candidate, Kamala
Yes.
Harris, running for
Yes.
the highest office in the land. I like that reaction. I feel the same way. Can you tell me more specifically about the barriers senior executives and leaders like Vice President Harris face professionally, and
Mhm.
offer tips to help them and those aspiring to leadership? Because there's some stuff when I wasn't a leader, it was like, and then I became, I was like, oh my goodness, nobody told me,
Right.
nobody prepared me, nobody told me I have the skills, but the professional skills. I can do spreadsheets and strategize, but there's some other things happening here that I was not prepared for.
Right.
Oh, this question has gotten so long, but that's okay. Can you offer tips to help them and those aspiring to leadership succeed?
Yeah. So it's interesting something that you said, like you can do the spreadsheet. Like, girl, because I love a spreadsheet. Okay.
Mhm.
I love a spreadsheet. Okay. And it's so important that we be good at our jobs, meaning that we have the skills, we make the investment
Right, right.
to show up and be able to do the work.
Mhm.
But that's only part of it. And what I would suggest now, because of the advent of AI, that is not less important, but because AI can help us to do a lot of those things effectively,
Sure.
what is even more important is how we carry ourselves, how we are impacted by external forces,
Mhm.
whether they be a pandemic, whether it be a person that you're dealing with on your team who's a jerk, you know, like
Hello.
just things that, because then we have all been faced with, right?
Mhm.
We've been in a corporate environment, certainly, and other places in our lives as well. Um, but having the ability to manage our emotions, manage our skills so that we can be adaptable. Because I'm going to tell you right now, AI, it's not so much it's going to take your job, but it will take your job if you don't know how to be adaptable, if you don't know how to leverage AI, if you don't know how to say, okay, well, this thing that used to take me a lot of time, I can do much more quickly. Now let me focus my attention and my talents on this other thing that I can uniquely do.
Right.
Right. And so the one thing, you didn't really ask me about AI, but it is an area that I
That's my
deal.
next question,
Oh, okay,
actually.
sorry, I
Yeah,
jumped ahead
yeah.
there, girl.
That's okay. That
But
is all right.
but the thing is, though, it's in my mind, it's very tied together.
Mhm.
I've invested very deeply. I would say I'm probably one of the top 10% in the world of using AI for business. And what I mean is, like, I'm not an artist, I can't do whatever, but there's a lot of tools out there. But I mean, for how can I be more effective in my business space? That's
Mhm.
something that I have excelled at, and I have business coaching clients I help with. But what I often hear, people are afraid of it.
Yeah.
Often we are our own worst enemies. we have self-doubts, we don't have the beliefs that
Right. Imposter.
we can do,
Hmm.
we should, we deserve. And I will honestly say those are the things that we that really work often against us the most, and the things that we can control. Because the guy you're working with on your team who's being a jerk, he's gonna be a jerk. But you can't control that.
Right.
What you can control is what you believe about yourself and your skills. Because if he's saying something crazy, you're like, he's just saying, but I know me. I know I can do the job. He's how I show up. I work. I add
Hmm.
value. If I believe that, then his words, all of this is like, I'm not even hearing that. Right. Um, and he's going to do that. But I have to manage my emotional state
Sure.
and how I respond.
Okay. And shout out to HBCUs. My folks went to Wiley and Prairie View as well. I went to Baylor, so but I am in the D9, so let me make sure I get in there. I want to lose my card. So
Okay.
we're,
I am not in the D9, but my sister and my mother's Alpha chapter,
okay,
Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. I did not pledge. I did not go to, I went to a Jesuit school where there are
interesting.
no fraternities and sororities, so I did not
Hmm.
pledge. But
Okay, okay, that's pretty cool. You must be very proud of your daughter. What's
I
she
am.
majoring in, if I may ask?
Well, she's actually now out, but she was an econ major, graduated cum laude, has launched her career, is just amazing young lady.
Look at you, and to think how it started with mom
Mhm.
just transforming her life and setting a what sounds like a fine example for
No,
them. So I want to
I hope so.
applaud
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. The fruit where the fruit falls is important.
Yes.
And not that we're responsible for all of their choices, but it's really nice when things go in a way that they can live without us.
Mhm.
Love us but live without us. That's really
Absolutely.
what we want.
Absolutely.
So you got into my next question, which is great, because that's your area of expertise. Everyone's talking about AI now, and I use it daily. I've incorporated it more and more. I started out with emails and recommendation letters. Now I just did a whole 52-page ebook
Nice.
with AI helping in formatting and finding data. I use
Yeah.
it for my podcast questions and just reservations. People just, it is unlimited.
It
Whether
is.
it's Bing, ChatGPT, Podium, which is specific to podcasts,
Okay.
Gemini now I have switched to on my phone. So folks, it's not anything to be afraid of. You can start
It's
out
not.
little like I did, just have it help you with your text messages because I am the typo queen. and, and I leave words out and everything. And
Yeah.
you just click a button and it'll fix it for you and you don't seem like an idiot. But you use it also, I believe, to do personalized growth or plans or something for your clients.
Yeah.
I didn't quite understand it, but I know
Right.
you use it in a unique way to serve others. Can you explain that and
Yeah.
what you do and how?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I do with, in fact, I have a new book coming out, and in my new book,
Congrats.
I have prompts in there to help people in all of the areas that I'm talking
Mhm.
about. So if I'm talking about one of the things that I talk about in the book is, you know, what's a good example? Like one of the things I talk about is defining your identity.
Mhm.
And there's a bunch of questions and tools that you can help to use in your using ChatGPT, right?
Mhm.
ChatGPT is phenomenal for brainstorming. And so sometimes I'll give my clients a task or what's called a custom GPT that I've developed to help them to uncover certain things, because sometimes we say, well, what do you want? I don't know.
Mhm.
What's most important to you? I don't know. Right. And so sometimes it's a series of questions that can help you to get there.
Right.
And so helping them, so brainstorming is a huge, that's one of the things I think people overlook. They think, oh, I can write a blog post. I can do it. And you can do all those things.
Mhm.
But you can also use it, like I said, brainstorming on any topic, helping to identify Everything from if you're working for you and your business on a particular understanding your ideal client, right? You can do some ideal client work, so you can better serve that person, drilling your messages. Like I said, with identity work, helping you by going through a series of questions, because sometimes like I said, it's not obvious to us, but if
Right.
we say ChatGPT, ask me a series of questions on the topic of what are my most important values, and then let me rate them and let me fill in, this looks good, this doesn't look good. And at the end of it, you have an output of a prioritization of your values. We often think, well, I know what's most important. You do, but if I compare this to this, which is most important? Oh, okay, well, maybe I actually prioritize something else a little bit higher. So that's a wonderful way. And I tell you too, the other thing is I use ChatGPT every day. And sometimes it's the most surprising things, like you were just saying, in terms of text messages, or being like with your thumbs, and it comes out not as you intended, or the
Right.
autocorrect. So I might have my phone and I might open up ChatGPT. I talk to it all the time because there's an opportunity. If you haven't used the app, I would encourage your listeners to use the app and talk to it. So you can talk to it much faster than you can thumb it in. And then if you ask it for a recap, say, hey, I want to prepare a text I want to send to Mo and say, hey, thank you so much for the call we had today. And I'm going to make sure I include these points. So then it comes back, boom, cut and paste. I can send it to you, done, in a fraction of the time.
Exactly.
And without the typos.
Right. Without the typos. And I take AI, those free courses on LinkedIn, or watch YouTube videos or whatever, every chance I get. And I'm glad you gave some prompts regarding the script, because the more specific you are, I mean, I've learned to even say what tone, who the audience is. I want this informal. I want it more professional. And it is amazing how it changes the language to suit what I've put in there. And, I've even just dumped old blogs I wrote in there, for example, and said, rewrite this for blah, blah, blah group.
Yes.
And it's still, people think it's all plagiarism and stealing other people's stuff. It is still my stuff.
It is still your work.
Right. But it is just worded and formatted much better.
Absolutely. You're so spot on. I mean, people, like I said, again, this goes back to your beliefs and people not liking change. And so when they hear that, I have a friend who I was trying to early on, more than a year ago, when I first got on this whole journey on AI, and I said to a friend of mine, hey, I really think that you should consider taking this class that I'm doing, or investigate this. And she said, but I really like to write. And I'm like, okay, no one's saying don't write. Could you use it as a sounding board? Could you use it as a way to get additional research? Could you just shorten the time that you're spending on this?
Right.
And so it's still bringing, as you point out, your ideas, but you can do it much more efficiently than you can if you were, now I need to do the research. That might take me a couple of hours. Well, now I can ask a few questions, right? Perplexity AI is one of my favorite for that type of research. They're really good with research that you can use and cut your time into a fraction of the time that it would take you to do it.
And I know a number of people who have let admins go, who are, able to outsource to AI some tasks because research is such a big part and data is such a big part of what many of us do. And in fact, I felt like I was limited to the resources that I knew about. I didn't even know to ask Google to do this, because Google won't do it quite the same way. And I'm not going through every single link that is given me. But so all of this to say, folks out there, AI can help you personally and professionally, and it's time to incorporate it. And you don't want to be one of those people let go because you didn't know how to employ it. That expertise, learning on your own, is going to help you be a more valuable resource, because that's who we're going to need in the future, the people who know how to use AI, right?
And it's like anything else. It's like you adapt or die.
Yeah.
You might not die here, but you might lose your job.
Exactly, and become extinct.
Absolutely. You do really do that. And I'll tell you one of those, just kind of a quick funny thing in terms of a personal use. So I'm in the store recently, and my husband was unwell, and I went out to go and purchase I wanted to get a COVID test. And I ran
Mhm.
to the store, and I thought, you know what? If he does have COVID, let me go ahead and run to the grocery store and kind of make some chicken noodle soup. I'm
Stock
going to
up.
get
Yeah,
some
yeah.
meals. And what if I have it? Because I've been exposed to him. So I better go to the grocery store now. So normally when I go to the grocery store, I like to have a list, and I have my little list in my notes on my iPhone, and I can check it off, right?
Mhm.
Make sure I get everything. But I hadn't planned to go this time. So I'm in the store and I pulled up a recipe, and I thought, oh, this looks good. So I took a screenshot of it. Now, then the only problem was I was having to flip back and forth between the image that I had, my notes that I had, walking up and down the aisles. And it sounds like this is not a big deal, but it was taking me a lot of time
Mhm.
to go back and forth. And I couldn't, like, I usually have a little thing so I could just punch it off my checklist.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute, there's a better way to do this. I threw it in a ChatGPT and I just said, hey, can you pull this list of ingredients out for me? Took the image, pulled it out, popped it into my notes, and then I was going through the grocery store, right? Check it out, check out. And that's such a silly little thing. But how many of those silly little things
Right.
are we confronted with on a daily basis? And if I can save my time there, and we're probably only talking a couple of minutes, but it just made the whole experience much more enjoyable for me.
Mhm.
I can put my attention on getting back, getting my husband taken care of, just something else that's more important to me than, like, flipping back and
Sure.
forth. So it's a time saver, but we have those things all the time in our lives.
We do. We do. As a content creator, you made me think about how I was fruitlessly searching the internet. I needed a black dentist with a black child patient. Could not find it, site after site. And then I was like, what am I doing? I jumped over to Canva. They have an AI thing. And I was like, I need a black female dentist, attractive. And
Attractive.
yeah, with a happy patient with their mouth open, whatever I said. It made the cutest graphic. I mean, I got more compliments on that than the accompanying
Right.
copy, which really was the point. But still, it was clickbait, and people stopped to look. And I mean, I had spent 20 minutes on something that AI did and gave me like 5 images
Right.
to select from. So I think we've hyped up AI and the ways that it can be used. And I love the way that you're using it with your clients as well. My last question as we wrap up here, Allyson, is I introduce you as a life design expert. There's somebody listening. I know there's somebody listening who's in that valley who wants things to change. They want to go in a different direction. They want to get to the top of that mountain. What are some of the first steps a woman can take toward designing a life that aligns with her truest self?
Great question. I would say the first thing I would recommend is, one, stopping, taking a moment, and remembering that when you're good to yourself, you can be good to others.
Mm,
And
yes.
we do have to stop and think that.
Hmm.
And then think about what that means. We were kind of making a little joke before about, like, going shopping with your girlfriends. I always say, like, you always want to pick self-care that's sustainable and is good for you long term. And the thing, like, we kind of said that might make you feel better in the moment, but if you don't have your credit in check, or whatever, it could also lead to negative consequences,
Right, right.
right? Um, and our most self-care, like I said, it's not like when I get my nails done. I love getting my nails done, but I don't think that's just maintenance for me. That's not self-care. It's like I
I
like to
agree.
have my nails done, so I got to take the time, go to the place, get my nails
Hmm.
done. But self-care is introspection. Self-care is taking time for yourself regularly, whether it's a nice bath, whether it's going for a walk,
Hmm.
communing with nature, meditating. Those are truly the self-care that serves us at the highest level. But the introspection, um, I think we're generally not taught to do that.
Hmm.
And we certainly aren't taught in school. It's all about your academics and learning your A, B's, and C's and your maths. But um, it's not taught. And so learning how to do that. I mean, it's one of the reasons that someone like Tony Robbins or Brene Brown or, any of the people that we've talked about exist,
Mhm.
because it's such a missing piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
So I would say to your users, one, just realizing that you deserve that and you need to take some time for yourself and find someone who can support you in that journey. You don't have to go it alone. It's like if you wanted to learn how to, learn how to do anything, play an instrument, you're going to go to a teacher. You're
Sure.
going to go to someone and find someone to support you in the process, because you can get where you're going much faster.
Mhm. Good
Right.
point.
And like you said too, like there's plenty of podcasts. There's all kinds of information out there.
Mhm.
Uh, Many of it's free, but that's the first thing, is like opening your mind to that and remembering that you matter, and you kind of have to put yourself first so you can help everybody else.
Yeah, you do. There's so many possibilities out there and so many possibilities for you to realize your truest self. Before we go, I know people want to know at this point, they want to know more about you and your services. How do they find you online, and what services do you offer for your clients?
Great. So I guess the two ways that you can find me. One is in Instagram. It's Allyson Ward, Alllyson Ward. I'm there, and I have a very active Instagram account, and I dance with my daughters there as well.
Nice.
So in addition to dispensing thoughts and information for people, you can see my daughters and I dance. In fact, I will just brag for a moment. We did a dance to Cuff. Remember when Cuff It was out and everyone was
Oh, yeah,
dancing?
yeah.
My daughters and I did that. And Beyonce's mama, Miss Lawson, took that and put it on her page.
Oh,
So
my. So
we,
I know you went viral. That was
well,
viral.
we
I
did.
might have seen it, and I didn't know who you were.
Yeah, right. Well, we did. If you go to my page, it's pinned at the top.
Okay.
And the funny thing was, she didn't tag us, but it just so happened it went viral. We had more than 2 million views, which is
Oh,
insane.
wow.
So that's just kind of fun. But my website, AllysonWard.com, there's a tab there that says "Work with Me." My greatest program that I love to work with women on is called Good to Greatness. I am not running it this year. But I do have a self-study course that I think would serve people.
Mhm.
Um, and in fact, I'll share with you, I have a discount code for your listeners if they put in the word podcast when they check out. It's not expensive. It's like less than $100. But it's a step-by-step. How do I set myself up to win for the next 12 months? So that introspection I was talking about. And one of the other things that you and I both talked about too before is the prioritization, right?
Yeah.
So there's 5 steps in the process. So I take you through that, and it ends up with that. Okay, we've done all these steps. We've talked about what's important. We've talked about what we've achieved at. Oftentimes people don't look back. They critique themselves. Well, I did this poorly. And they don't stop to say, well, what went great last 12 months?
Mhm.
I had a lot of things that really went great, right? So recognizing that. And then what didn't so great? What would I like to see change? What can maybe it's a 2 millimeter difference I need to make to get me where I want to go. And then that last piece is kind of the boundary piece. So I take people through very specific steps there.
Oh,
I
that's awesome.
will also say I've written 2 books as a bestseller, and my new book is just
Congrats.
coming out, and I'm super excited about that. Yes, yes, I'm very excited. I actually only the Kindle version is out right now, but it should be out any day now in terms of the actual book. And there's so much information in there, and it's called Demolish Your Stress. So I invite people to go and get that book. And there'll be plenty of tips and tools, some AI, just other
Mhm.
things that you can do to show up as your best self.
Sweet, sweet. Love the title. Ebooks dominate the market. You've got the version out there that needs to be out there first, because people want to read on the go now. So I'm still a paper girl. I like it,
Yeah,
but
right.
60%, 65% of book sales now are digital. So
Yeah.
congrats to you. Yay on the bestseller. And please keep up this great, amazing work that you are doing,
Yes.
transforming lives, Allyson.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you, listeners, for your time and support of this woman-owned indie podcast. Remember to like, subscribe, and share for more like this. Until next time, be safe and be well. Thank you.